Welcome to Banished. This is Eki. This is my first settlement that I've made so far, and I've been playing this one for about 20 hours so far. I've had a lot of starvations and a lot of problems as I've gone through. So let's actually take a look at that. Let's get some graphs. I'm trying to remember which button it is. Pretty sure. Oh, you know what I need to do? I need to find my town hall. There it is. Nope, that's my chapel. Alright, so here's my town hall. And I've got a graph here. This is showing population over the last 100 years. I'm on year 93 right now. And you can see this yellow line is probably the best to look at. You can see there's like a huge drop off right here. This was like my first starvation that I suffered through, and eventually I got it back around and things were going pretty good. And you can see all these choppy lines here. This was probably the hardest part of the game here. This was cresting 200 population, and I had to reload and save my game a bunch during this period. But eventually I finally figured it out, and now I'm producing a lot of food. And my citizens are doing pretty good, and I kind of want to talk about a little bit about how I'm kind of doing mid-game here. Most likely the beginning of the game you'll figure it out, so I'm not really worried about showing you that. But I kind of want to talk about maintenance and you know, what happens after you've had a village going for about 20 hours. So the first thing you've probably noticed is all of these stop signs that I have. These little yellow circles with a white kind of stop sign here. These are all farms that I've stopped production on because I was watching the citizens kind of walk too far to get to their work and wasting a lot of time getting to and from their home and, you know, where the food is and everything else. So I ended up stopping all of these, and I stopped a few over here, and I stopped this one. I stopped pretty much any of the extra, the ones that were like kind of on the edges. And what I did for some of the more central ones is there's a little arrow here, which I didn't really realize, that you can click up. So right now it says 5 of 5, and you can click up one, and now it says 5 of 6. And so you can get 6 workers on one farm, and eventually start tweaking it. So this is like not really a full-sized farm, and I figured that 5 is pretty good. Once the winter is over, I'll show you how that works. But generally speaking, I've been putting lots of people onto the farms that are closer to kind of the middle of my settlement here, and you know, managing workers from there. So this basic button down here, you can see your assign jobs to citizens here, and I've got a bunch of laborers, a couple builders. I've got 151 farmers, and I've got a lot of farms. So I've got a bunch of farms here, and then I've kind of started building my you know, secondary settlement over in this area. And I've got a couple of roads. If you zoom in real close, you can see all the little settlers kind of moving around and stuff. I've built roads just where people are walking. I don't really, if you build a road, they're not going to get on it, so you basically just watch where your settlers are going, and you just build roads underneath them, and they can go a little faster to get from one place to the other. Another big improvement that I made was these livestock farms. So I've got a shitload of chickens, and chickens make eggs and chicken meat. So I've got 3 full, biggest pastures you can get of chickens. I've got a couple smaller ones, and then sheep are good as well because they produce wool, and wool is necessary for the winter, so you can make warm clothes and stuff at your tailor. So right now I got them working on wool coats. I've got a couple other things. I've got a mine here for coal. I've got a stone quarry. and I've also got a secondary mine over in this area. It's got 90% left. I feel like that other mine's about to run out, so kind of built out a second one. I've also got a lot of fishing docks. I got a fishing dock here, another one here, another one here, another one over in this area, and then I think I've got some more down over in this spot. I don't know if it really matters how close they are to each other. You could probably get away with just staying within that little circle. So that means I could probably fit another fishing dock in this area. But generally speaking, I'm trying to keep everybody completely fed and making sure that everybody's warm. So all of my buildings, all of my residential areas are stone houses, which provide a little bit more warmth than a wooden house. And I've also got a boarding house, which is empty right now. But usually if you get nomads, or if some kind of disaster happens, like if a bunch of your house is set on fire or a tornado hits, boarding house is really useful because it gives a place for people to basically sleep and keep warm. Got a couple of cattle farms down here too. Cattle farms are good because they give food and they also give leather, and you can make some nice warm clothing with leather and wool. But right now I'm just using wool. I've also got a couple of hunters kind of stationed around, which also help with leather and meat, but unless there's deers to hunt, they can't really get much. Got a couple of forester lodges, so they basically plant trees and chop down trees as well. So I've got this whole area is just kind of dedicated to tree management, because one of the more important things is you need to have woodcutters. And woodcutters essentially take wood and turn them into firewood. And to keep your citizens warm, they need firewood. So there's this kind of basic menu up here where you can see all of these values. I've got 690 wood, I've got 1,300 firewood, I've got 11,000 food, and that's really important. Because once that number starts getting low, starvations are really hard to stop. So it's better to have a huge buffer of food. I'm running a little bit low on herbs, which is fine. The herbs really aren't that important. And I've got a couple herbalists. Actually, let's see what my jobs look like here. I've got 4 herbalists right now because I'm kind of running low. But I'm not too worried about that. I've got plenty of clothes left over. I've got 2 tailors, and I've got 2 blacksmiths. So they're making tons of clothes and tools. Tools are also very important. So I mean, let's find out where my blacksmith is. They can make iron tools or they can make steel tools. The only difference is coal. So as long as you've got enough miners mining coal, then you can make steel tools, which last a little bit longer than the iron tools. And I feel like they just work better. So I mean, if you can spare the resources, start mining some coal as soon as you can, and make steel tools. Another really important piece of the puzzle is having cemeteries. So when people die, which they die a lot, it makes everybody really sad. So if you don't have a cemetery with space available for more graves, then the happiness of your village will go down. So it's really important to make sure you've got plenty of graves. So now I'm kind of early spring. I started in the winter here, and now that I'm in early spring, you'll start seeing a bunch of these citizens getting to work here. You got this guy with a little pickaxe, with a little like hoe, and they're kind of just digging holes and stuff for the farms here. You can see this guy's working over here, and it takes a full season. So I mean, from early spring till late autumn, they're going to be growing plants and stuff, and you really only get one harvest. And then for the winter, you can't do shit. So that's why it's really important to have extra fishing docks, because fishers work all seasons, so you can still get fish if it's winter. And also the hunters will give you meat and stuff if it's winter. and most importantly, your livestock will also give you food and stuff during the winter. So it's important to have plenty of livestock, and the only way you can get livestock is by trading for it. So you have your trading post. I found out that firewood is probably the easiest resource that you can make. It's the most valuable. It's worth 4 each, and it's all it takes is wood and putting a couple people at the wood cutter here. But I mean, if anything, the most important piece is always have tons and tons of food. I've got 8,000 food right now, and you can kind of up the limit. So right now my food limit is 21,000, which is pretty good. I haven't really actually hit that for a little while. And right now what I'm doing is I've stopped building new houses, which is important. So if you can kind of see, like, this house is almost full of people. There's 5 people in here. There's 3 more slots, so you could fit a few more. And I've got some older people. I've got a child here. I've got a 6-year-old child. I've got some farmers and stuff. And you can see these numbers over here. I've got 270 adults. So those are people that can do work. I've got 42 people that are in school. And, once they become a laborer, they are a little bit more productive as long as they've been educated. So you gotta invest a couple people into schools and stuff. So I've got 3 teachers, and I've got a couple schools. Here's one of my schoolhouses. It's got 18 students, kind of strategically around where some of the houses are. And now that it's not winter, you can kind of see a little bit better. These little stone houses, I've got tons of people here. And the trick right now is I'm trying to kind of slow down the population growth a little bit. We've got 40 children and 42 students and 270 adults. And the more houses you have, the more your laborers or adults will essentially reproduce and create children. And children can't work, so they're just eating food and stuff. So if you have too many children and not enough people, you'll go through some serious starvations. So right now my food is down to 5,000. I've got half the amount of food that I had when winter ended. But it's okay because it's spring, and you can see some of my farms are starting to do a little bit better. I've got a crop field here, and these guys are hard at work. I've got 6 out of 6. So probably early autumn, late autumn, I'll have a full harvest there and probably get another 5,000 food or so from all of my farms. But realistically, as long as you've got enough food, you're usually pretty good. But you also need to worry about firewood and keeping people warm during winters. And so right now I'm kind of working on trying to get a population of 500 citizens, which I'll do eventually. But it's really a slow-paced game. Like most of the time, you're kind of just watching it and moving these numbers around. So like if I wanted to get rid of one of my farmers and add another builder, I could do that. Or if I wanted to make sure I've got plenty of farmers, which is important. I usually keep like full herdsmen, full gatherers, full fishermen, full hunters, full wood cutters. I actually only have 4 out of 5 right now, because I've got 1,500 wood. And laborers are good because essentially you can just assign basic tasks. So, I want these guys to kind of just clear out this whole area of trees. And so I've got 16 laborers, and eventually they'll come in here and chop down all these trees and collect wood for me. But really, I mean, the whole point of this game is to essentially let it run itself. And you learn little things. So if you'll notice, I've got some pretty dense homes over in this area here. And then here I've got like barely any homes. Well, what happened was I had this whole area full of houses, and one of them set on fire. And so it burned down all of these houses, and I went through a pretty rough time. I had a bunch of people in my boarding house, and they didn't have anywhere to live, so my population kind of slowed down a little bit. And And what I realized is if you space out your housing, so over here, this is kind of like a newer area, I'm giving like one space in between all of the houses. And I also put a well here, which will help with fire. And this area hasn't actually set on fire yet, so I think this is probably a good idea, is you want to kind of like checkerboard your housing. Because, I mean, you've got tons of space. Let's take a look at the map. If I can remember where it is. There it is. So here's a map, and I'm on just this little area here. And I mean, I've got all this area I could expand out into. I've got this whole area down here. I've got plenty of stone and iron to build stuff with. So I mean, realistically, space isn't necessarily a problem. It's more about just making sure that you have plenty of like networks between your markets. So your markets are really important. This is where all of your goods are stored and where all of your settlers get stuff. So I've got all my berries and fish and coats and stuff. And I've got this market, and you can kind of see there's like a circle here. I don't think it actually means anything. It's just a guideline. Because this, like, there's some houses which might not be within this circle, but they can still figure out how to get to the market and get their food. So I got another market over here, and then I've got my third market over here. So I've got plenty of room to expand my housing, which I will do eventually, but realistically I'm more concerned about my food. So I've got 3,000 food, and it's early summer. Some of these farms are, you know, they've got 50% yield, so I could harvest it right now, or I could wait, and I'm going to wait, and just let the AI take care of it. But this is kind of the game right now, and I'll maybe do another video when I've got, right now I've got 276, maybe I've got 300-ish people, so I'll do another one once I've got 500. But this is Banished, and I'm Eki. I hope you liked watching this, and I'll see you next video.